said earlier that today we have one of our SABC TNA Business Breakfast shows. They're in Senton this morning. That's where Peter is. They're looking at a very sensitive issue of xenophobia in South Africa. Let us say a very good morning to Peter and the members of the panel.
Palesa, thank you very much indeed, and a very warm welcome to all of you at home, wherever you may be watching across South Africa and the many territories across the continent if you just tuned in. Yep, this is the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings, brought to you by the SABC, and today very kindly sponsored by Transnet. And as Palesa was saying, we're looking at the issue of xenophobia. Now, there's no question that many non-nationals have been living in South Africa for many, many years. Way before 1994, migrant labor was used to build the mining industry and agriculture, and I think some of the history there had to do with how the regime used our brothers and sisters for cheap labor. Fast forward 1994, democracy happens in South Africa, and we started to see more migration happening. There were issues in terms of destabilization in other parts of the continent. So people started to come into South Africa to escape issues back home. Others were just economic migrants. They just wanted a better life. And South Africa was this new land of hope. And so we started to see more and more movements. The word xenophobia really didn't hit the radar. That's not to say that perhaps there might have been some tensions with foreign nationals inside the country, but it certainly wasn't something that we articulated or observed. 2008 then happened, and sadly that's when the word xenophobia became commonplace and something that we talked about significantly. 62 people died, and caught amongst that violence were 21 South African nationals that were caught up in it. Since 2013, 2017, there have been other spikes of xenophobic violence or targeting of foreign nationals, whether it's their shops and other tensions. So what we'd like to do today is explore this term, xenophobia, and what we're seeing in South Africa. Is it xenophobia? The president said that recently that there are no South Africans are not xenophobic, but people will tell you that what they're experiencing, these are non-nationals, they think and believe that it sometimes is xenophobia. Is it, though, that there might be deeper issues, socio-economic issues? We hear about jobs, we hear about economic opportunities, we hear about drugs and crime. So to help us unpack this, and hopefully we get your comments as well, wherever you may be, hashtag TNA Biz Brief at Morning Live SABC. That's where we'd like to get your comments. To help us unpack this, let me introduce my panel, starting with the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Mokoseli Apleni. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Good morning to you, and as well as the audience and the viewers at home.
Not a stranger to this program as well, Mayor Angie Makwetla. We've had you before, but you're here wearing your Commissioner of the South African Human Rights Commission hat. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, and good morning to the viewers at home.
Next to you, we have the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, Mr. Mark Baffour. Good morning. Bienvenue.
Morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And next to you, we have from the Foundation for Human Rights, and I think that the migrant program is your area of specialty, is Ms. Sarah Muta. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Peter, and the viewers at home and the audience in the house.
All right. Well, let me start with you, Mr. Apleni, because when we talk migration, you're really at the forefront there, being the DG at Home Affairs. And we're seeing these xenophobic attacks, and I'm going to say in inverted commas because we're still going to unpack whether they are xenophobic or not. And this is something that sparks every so often that we're finding. And I'm just wondering, from your camera lens, what have you been observing? What have you been seeing in terms of what we then highlight in the media from time to time?
Yeah. First, Peter, I wanted to start just a little bit of a background, not in detail, to say, firstly, every state is responsible for their nationals. I think that's where we need to start. And then from there, countries of the world understood that people will move. Hence, through the UN, there are certain protocols and conventions at a UN level, at a AU level, at SADC. Then as countries, we need now to take those protocols and domesticate them through the legislations which we come up as countries. In South Africa, we'll have an Immigration Act which deals with migrants, and then we'll have the Refugee Act which deals with the refugees. But also I want to unpack it further. I'll leave the migrants, then come to this issue of asylum seekers and refugees, because we're always not understanding the difference between the two. An asylum seeker is somebody who is running from his or her own country because he no longer believes that he's got a protection from that state. But in terms of the UN conventions, it is clear under which circumstances you will be regarded as an asylum seeker. And then once now you come to a country, you have to determine your request or your issue. And then after that, you are granted a status that you are a refugee. In the context of South Africa, once you are a refugee, you are granted that status. The only right which you do not have as against a South African, which are clear in the Constitution, in the Bills of Rights, is only the right to vote. Everything else is the same. So I think that is important. So when we discuss this matter, we understand that we are in our country and then we are seeking a protection. Now let's come here now to this issue of saying now, are we, what sparks this? Are we at a point of xenophobic? As I've been listening from the editor to say, chief editor of New Age, the description of xenophobic, what that thing means. I've looked at the dictionary, it said it's a hatred and a fear or prejudice against the foreign nationals. Can we say in South Africa we are real at that state? I don't believe so. There are many foreign nationals who are in our country which are adored by people, whether it's a soccer player or is a cricket player, or are the people who are doing jobs in South Africa, doctors everywhere. People are sitting in our country. And what was good about South Africa is that we did not even take the policy of encampment to take people and put them in a camp. We believe on integration because we are believing that we are one people. So the policy of South Africa is said, yes, we look at the issues of national interest, the region, the continent, and the rest of the world. And we are really fighting for a better world for all. So we believe that, yes, there are tensions, pockets, in a particular area, like now it is around Gauteng, but you go to Eastern Cape, you go to Limpopo, you go everywhere. People are living freely in South Africa. And again, as government, that's why we are saying we need to protect everyone who is in South Africa, whether legal or illegal. Life is life.
Okay, all right. And it's good to hear these definitions, asylum seeker and a refugee. So asylum seeker, that's a transitional stage, phase. And after a determination, you're either repatriated or you get refugee status. Very important. And Mayor Angie, South African Human Rights Commission, I know that you have a lot of work to do, but it's interesting that an area of focus is actually migration policy and how migrants are treated. Why was it so important that is one of the areas of focus?
Thank you, Peter. It's important that as the Human Rights Commission, we focus on migrants, on people coming into our country, because, you know, we have a constitution which is the supreme law of this country, and the constitution refers to human rights. And every chapter that you go through almost talks about human dignity. So it is important that we treat people with respect. When somebody comes into my house and says, I am seeking asylum because where I come from, there is no safety, there is no protection, it is incumbent upon me as the host to welcome that person and to talk to them. Now, you see, we need to identify the source of the problem. Right now, in my humble opinion, I think our people are fighting over a small pie, because when you are eating and somebody wants to cut up the pie that you're eating and share it with others, then you want to protect it. So we need to educate our people. We need to talk about how to deal with these issues. Because when a person gets angry, then they need to ventilate. But as community leaders, political leaders, we need to come together with our people. We need to put our house right. We need to make sure that our people understand their rights, but also understand that every right has a responsibility. So I cannot demand freedom of expression, and that is very important. Freedom of expression does not mean that I can say anything, that I can utter hatred speech, that I can incite violence, and our leaders also need to be trained in that direction to say, whenever you open your mouth, make sure what you say, because people are listening. And sometimes what we say can then be misinterpreted, and then we incite actions that we did not foresee.
All right.
Leaders in this country need to focus on social cohesion, on nation building. And to do that, we need to welcome people from other countries, because I was just saying to my brother next to me here that I can learn from him, he can learn from me. So if we sit around the table and we digest these issues and we say to our people, yes, we understand the anger, we understand the unemployment issues, the socio-economic issues, let us talk and see how we can put things right.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for those opening thoughts. Mr. Buffo, I'm going to come to you. We're going to have a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll hear from the other two panelists and then get this conversation started in earnest. Hashtag TNA Biz Brief, that's BIZ, and at Morning Live SABC is where you can drop your notes and thoughts. We'll see you after this.